AI continues to improve, and it just gets smarter all the freaking time.
2 Nobel Prizes were just handed out for AI advancements.
Which leads us to wonder, how long until the awards just go to the AIs themselves?
Oh, well, don't worry, because there's a bunch of people warning we're going to run out of energy and time before we ever see that day.
That's right. OpenAI is worried it's not getting enough juice to power its AI models, and it is taking shots at its biggest partner, Microsoft.
We're exploring what this means for all of us and getting a glimpse at the cutting edge of filmmaking with Meta's new MovieGen.
Cutting edge, but still not released. We also have powerful updates to other video models and the easiest way to turn your grandma into a minion.
Despicable. I'll see myself out. This is AI for Humans.
Everybody, it is a big week in AI as per usual, and this week we have some Nobel Prizes, Kevin, given out to 2 big names in the AI space. First and foremost, Geoffrey Hinton has won the Nobel Prize for Physics, and you may ask yourself, who is Geoffrey Hinton? Well, he's the guy...
You may ask yourself, who is this Hinton?
No, we are not getting a copyright strike this early, Kevin. Hold it back. So Geoffrey Hinton, yes, he won the Nobel Prize in Physics with John J. Hopfield for, quote, showing a completely new way for us to use computers. So this is semi-controversial, Kev. There's a lot of people in the physics world who are kind of mad about the fact that they got this for this AI model.
It seems like a computer science-y kind of thing. And I know that they will say, well, there's physics involved with computer science. But yeah, there's physics involved with sous videing meat, but they're not giving out Nobel Prizes to friggin' Gordon Ramsay.
Oh, 100%. But let's talk about why this actually matters. First and foremost, like, this is an acknowledgement by one of the largest committees in the world that acknowledge like scientific progress, that this moment that we are in is pretty significant, right? That this moment is changing a lot of the way we live going forward. And one of the interviews I saw, one of the journalists talked about this idea that, like, it's not just about the now, it's about like how this is going to change our lives for the next 10 to 30 years, let's say.
I didn't want to interrupt you, but I think this is like when they put the Theranos lady on the Time magazine cover.
Yes,
or
yes,
FTX.
You're right.
Yeah, I mean, this is on...
It's all the same stuff, right? 2 years from now, we're going to be like, oh, we got to rescind that Nobel Prize. But anyway, so Geoffrey Hinton had some things to say about this. First of all, we wanted to get his initial reaction. So they caught him right after this. And this is from the Nobel Prize Committee interview that he did.
Morning, Professor Hinton.
Good morning.
Please accept our work.
I'm sorry. I just love $1 billion throat clear to kick things off. Good morning, Professor Hinton.
Hello. Foremost, congratulations to receiving the Nobel Prize in Physics.
Thank you very much.
How do you feel right now?
I'm flabbergasted. I had no idea this would happen.
That's a good reaction.
I love a good flabbergasted.
Yeah.
I love a good flabbergasted. So, Kev, we should just really quickly discuss why this matters at large. I think my feeling is, like I said before, like this is a sign of the times. We're not scientists. We're not going to kind of debate whether or not this is physics or not, but I think this puts AI on a much larger world stage from a science community. Do you think that this, like, basically is the world saying, like, okay, now we need to start thinking about how this is going to affect us going
this
forward?
This is Nobel clout chasing. All right, that's what this is. This is their next thing. The Nobel guys are going to be chugging Prime Energy drink at their desks, hoping for some relevancy. This is big Nobel hoping that we would talk about them. We as in us and the AI community. That's all this is. I asked ChatGPT specifically, does this award belong here? This isn't a bit. I genuinely asked it, and it says, AI may seem like a computational field, which it does. It says the underlying principles, energy minimization, dynamical systems, complex systems, pattern recognition, they're fundamental in both physics and information theory. So rather than a lack of categories, which is what I insinuated might be an issue here, it says the award recognizes the physics-like modeling inherent in the neural network research. I don't know if I'm buying it.
No, the more important thing to us is that he took this opportunity to do a press tour and then take a diss on Sam Altman.
Well,
so he spent some time. Geoffrey Hinton went out there, went around the world, and he wanted to take his time on this tour to diss on Sam Altman. So
we have to play this. Yeah, you're so right. This is like when they give the fighter the microphone in the ring.
Yeah.
But they're just like a little punch drunk. They're a little concussed and they're just trying to pull it back. Here we go.
Yeah.
I'd also like to acknowledge my students. I was particularly fortunate to have many very clever students, much cleverer than me, who actually made things work. They've gone on to do great things. I'm particularly proud of the fact that one of my students fired Sam Altman.
Wait.
That was just some serious shade thrown in the middle of a significant. So in this clip, he's talking about Ilya. He's talking about Ilya Sutskever, and he's talking about the idea that Ilya fired Sam. And I think this gets to the heart of where Hinton is at with this whole conversation around AI safety, because one of the other things that's come up in a lot of the press he's done after this.
And over time, it turned out that Sam Altman was much less concerned with safety than with profits. And I think that's unfortunate.
That is as close to a mic drop as you will ever hear in this field in a voice like that.
Yes. So this is where, this is the continual conversation. Geoffrey Hinton has gone on places like 60 Minutes. He's gone on many other places, kind of saying in some ways he regrets this thing he's invented. Now, I don't think he regrets it, because he talked in the Nobel Prize speech about how it's going to fundamentally change our ability to deal with our health problems or to do great things for the world. But he is very worried about this still. And the throwing of shade to Sam Altman in this sort of scenario really does make you think like, okay, we have these two kind of pathways. One is like the kind of like slow and steady turtle pathway, which is really like every step along the way, make sure we're not releasing something that feels dangerous in somebody's mind. And the other pathway is let's kind of race to get this thing done, because if we don't get it done first, somebody else will. And Hinton feels very much still on the slow and steady path. I think that we'll find out. We're kind of already on the other path as it is. Like, basically Hinton in some ways starts to feel a little bit like a relic. And I don't mean that as an insult, but it's a little bit of poo-pooing of what's going on in the world. And I do struggle sometimes, Kev, with this idea that like, as the AI gets smarter, as it gets smarter than us, like, I don't think we're thinking enough about what that means as a society at all.
We should point out, Gavin, that Hinton and Hopfield weren't the only ones receiving some flowers. The Royal Swedish Academy of Sciences awarded the 2024 Nobel Prize in Chemistry, with one half to David Baker for computational protein design, and the other half jointly to Demis Hassabis and John M. Jumper. John, love you, don't know you, respect you. But Demmis is someone we've talked about. That's a terrible way to set up someone who's just like major advancements in their field.
Don't know you.
I'm like,
love
John,
you.
listen,
but
you're
let's
an
talk
also
about this other guy.
Yeah, you're second boots on the moon to me. And let me just level set. I am someone.
You didn't make black and white. Demis made black and white. We know that. So anyway, so yes, Demis Hassabis, the head of Google's DeepMind, and really the person that's really driving Google's AI whole pathway right now, also received a Nobel Prize. So this is really for the work that's being done via Alphafold. If you remember, we talked about that a while ago. That is the ability to predict protein structures using AI. Right now, some of the biggest, and really a lot of the biggest discoveries are being made with people plus AI, right? Like that's this kind of world. And Demis is a really good example of, they've put the hard work in for like, 15 years, I think, at DeepMind is how long it's been around. And now we're starting to see the fruits of this labor. And again, as we talk about AI expanding and getting smarter and speeding up, there are a lot of people out there in the world who believe that this sort of thing is going to happen a lot more. And I honestly, I do think at some point we see one of these Nobel Prizes given to maybe not a model on its own, but a person plus a model, right? Because that feels like the perfect illustration of how like AI can be used as a tool going forward. Imagine the Nobel Prize is saying to me, well, we now are giving this prize to Gavin Purcell and ChatGPT for the creation of Hot Dog City. I will finally be, in 10 years, I will finally be rewarded for Hot Dog City's invention.
Everybody tossing the buns at your feet on the stage. I can see it now. Yeah, that's like the Nobel Prize in literature going to someone who generated like 5,000 mouth-watering SEOable hooks that are going to bring people into your viral content. People are split and upset about these prizes going to people using artificial intelligence, saying that the prize is not recognizing their field properly, that this is all, again, kind of a clout chase for AI. Yep. And I can understand that argument, but I think I feel similarly to you, which is like, look, the advancements are being made with this tech, as you said, so it makes sense that that's where the accolades are flowing. And we just got to confront that this is the new reality, which is also something, by the way, your favorite person in this world, Papa Elon Musk, was talking about recently. Should we
Not
play
my
the clip?
favorite person, Kevin. I know you always speak the truth about yourself and you reflect it on other people. But yes, Elon had an interview and he talked a little bit about what it means for our society to build these hyper-intelligent AIs.
We're building super intelligent AIs, hyper intelligent, like intelligent, more intelligent than we can comprehend. So I would liken this to, like, let's say you have a child that is a super genius child, that you know it's going to be much smarter than you. Then, well, what can you do? You can instill good values in how you raise that child. So even though you know it's going to be far smarter than you, you can make sure it's got good values, philanthropic values.
Go ahead, Gavin.
This is not a political statement, but I'm not sure if Elon Musk is the person we want to be giving the values to our super intelligent child. But
the irony leaping out of this social post is kind of amazing.
Still, what's interesting about this statement is, again, I think the thing people are out there sometimes saying when they listen to us, probably not as much, because people who hate AI are like, oh, this is all BS. This is all going to blow over. These are not that smart. I think the important thing is whether or not you think Elon, you believe in what he believes in, he's clearly proven to be a smart entrepreneur and aware of how changes are coming over the course of, his career. And Geoffrey Hinton and Demis Hassabis and Sam Altman and like every smart person that works at like Microsoft or these companies, they do have like value in putting these ideas up, but the money is going into it on purpose. If it were really not a big deal, I don't think these people would be talking about it in this way for this long. Like, it feels like this has crossed the Rubicon. And to me, the Nobel Committee is just the next version of that.
You're not alone in saying that this isn't going away. In fact, former Google CEO Eric Schmidt said the energy demands for everything we discuss each and every week is, quote, infinite. And we might as well build it because we're probably going to die anyways. So you should listen to this.
Demand is infinite, even assuming everything that you're implying in your question. So let's go through that. First, we already discussed better materials for batteries. That takes a while, but that's important. In terms of delivery of power, you work on power line losses. You put the data centers next to the big power lines, as I described earlier. And architecturally, there's huge improvements to be made in essentially cost effectiveness per transaction. All of that will be swamped by the enormous needs of this new technology. And because it's a universal technology, and because it's the arrival of an alien intelligence, right, something we don't understand, we may make mistakes with respect to how it's used, but I can assure you that we're not going to get there through conservation. That's the key point.
Yeah, that was.
Do you want to know how to make a bajillion environmentalists angry? Is just tell them, you know what? Stop worrying. It's okay. We're going to destroy the planet until we create this super intelligent God that's going to fix all of our problems anyway. So we might as well just like get on the train and go as fast as we can.
I get it. We are in control of a lot of what we do on this planet. Maybe not you and I, but there's definitely some human beings that are in control of it.
Sure.
Like, you could tell them to just stop rolling the dice. And what he's saying is like, no. They got a gambling problem. The dice are going to keep rolling. So you might as well place a bet that maybe the dice that you're rolling on this artificial superintelligence could save us from ourselves. That's just a weird thing. That plays at the beginning of a sci-fi movie in a montage.
Again, this whole discussion today is really about this idea that what is it like to live in a world where AIs are smarter than we are, right? And that's what's coming. At least people are saying it is. And I think that's an important thing for everybody who's listening to this or watching this, like to sit back and think, wow, what would happen in a world where a super genius AIs existed and they could figure out all these things that we can't? And I think the very first thing, Kevin, they would figure out is how important it is to subscribe to AI for Humans on YouTube.
Thank you.
How important every super AI is going to be out there right away saying, go like and subscribe this particular video, but make sure you share it as well. And again, if you're listening on the audio, leave us a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. We will read 5-star reviews in the audio version of our podcast. Please like, subscribe, and come by our Discord too. We have a lot of fun in our Discord these days.
How fun that must have been for the OpenAI engineers to be in the back room watching AI come to life, and the first thing, like the cursor blinks and it says like, subscribe. AI for humans.
So, Kev, speaking of how we're going to start destroying the environment with AI, OpenAI has a problem right now. And
we're not doing it fast enough. That's
we're
the
not
problem,
doing it
Gavin.
Fast enough.
Sam
we're
Altman,
not destroying the world fast enough, Kevin, to get to the thing that's going to save the world.
He looks out from his ivory tower and he goes, too many trees. Get them down.
The information had this story, which is kind of juicy. OpenAI is saying that Microsoft has not really moved fast enough to get it more servers, and that it's going to have to start looking for servers in other places. And why this matters is, again, all these companies are kind of in a race for training, right? Just to quickly level set here, all AI models and inference, the AI processing that's done after a model is trained, are done on very powerful servers with very powerful graphics cards. And what OpenAI is saying here is that Microsoft, its main partner, is not providing it enough power. And Kev, I guess the question ultimately becomes is, who can provide enough power right now for what these companies want, right?
They're saying Microsoft promised 300,000 GB200 chips by the end of 2025. And to your point, you had Zuckerberg out there touting how many processors he's got in his back closets, all trying to woo developers, all racing for these next-gen models. I don't think there will be enough for all of these frontier plays that are going on, and I think they're banking on that. If you want to be one of maybe like the 3 that are left standing after this wave crashes or this bubble bursts, you're kind of delighted by the fact that there's massive resource wars going on for all of this stuff. From the information story, one thing to point out, it says the companies previously included a provision in their contract that gave OpenAI room to work on such deals. These are deals with other providers, despite agreeing to make Microsoft its exclusive cloud server provider. So basically we went from OpenAI getting massive backing from Microsoft, promising you'll be the only one, you're the one for me, and now Microsoft sits in a chair in the corner of the hotel room smoking a cigarette while Sam Altman is making deals with Oracle on the bed.
I did hear there was a story that said that Microsoft might be better off in some ways not being the only provider of OpenAI because of their EU antitrust deals, which does make a little bit of sense because they could get in trouble there. But either way, I mean, I think this all just points to the idea that the need for power and the need for chips and the need for training is just going to go up. So NVIDIA go burr, Kevin. NVIDIA go burr.
It prints money. Speaking of money printing, let's talk Tesla's Robotaxi initiative, Gavin, which if I look at the old timeline correctly, I think was supposed to be out in 2017, but then was definitely going to be out in 2019, and then was just like any minute now. And you and I, a little bit of how the sausage is made, we're recording this on a Wednesday morning. By the time people are hearing this or watching this, Tesla will have had a big robo-taxi announcement of some sort. Do we expect to be hailing one anytime soon?
You think they're going to just turn them on, like flip a switch, and they'll be there?
They keep acting like they're here yesterday. Meanwhile, Waymo is actually doing trips in Los Angeles and San Francisco. So it's weird to be talking about this knowing that like people are grabbing this episode while it's happening. But where are we going with this?
Well, okay, so it's the We Robot event happens at 10 a.m. on Thursday morning, as Kevin's referring to, and what they're expected to unveil there is their Robotaxi initiative and probably some more humanoid robot stuff as well. And the idea here always was with Tesla and their FSD product was that old Teslas or Teslas that get turned back in fact, I just turned my Tesla lease in, I got 3 years ago, and the idea with when they started leasing these cars was like they'll be able to turn them into robotaxis, right? Mm-hmm. That ultimately the Tesla model could be a thing where if they can create a bunch of robotaxis, either from new or older Teslas, that is a massive, massive amount of money that will come in because of all the taxis that are in the world. And they could conceivably replace them as well as Uber drivers. This is Waymo's bet and everything like that. I think, Kevin, the thing that I keep coming back to is Elon is not exactly a rule follower per se, right? I think we can all both agree on that. And the thing that Waymo has done pretty smartly is like start small, but also like be very careful about the regulations in the places that they are and step by step deal with the issues as they come up with. And I think, to be honest, I don't see Elon's robotaxis coming to scale. I would say 3 to 5 years, which I know to him is going to sound insane, but I don't know if I buy that these are going to transform the world soon.
And we talk about it here not just because it is Gavin's favorite person on the planet. The reason we talk about it is that they've switched to an AI end-to-end model, and supposedly that is unlocking all of the things. So instead of engineers having to sit there and hard code all of these edge case scenarios, they can just use AI to train the system to understand how to drive. And when Gavin says Elon's not particularly known for the rules, that might be an issue because they see competitors lining up. They see other cybercabs operating in these areas. And I could just see Elon saying, this needs a farmer's market mode. This needs the this needs the button that you push, and when you gotta get to LAX on time, it's gonna make a detour directly through 3rd Street Promenade. Sorry, got to do it.
The next story, something that came out last week, but we definitely wanted to hit on, is that ChatGPT is really shipping right now. OpenAI is doing a lot of stuff. We saw, obviously, O1 and O1 Preview come out a couple weeks ago, and just last week, they released a tool within ChatGPT that is very cool. It is called Canvas. And what Canvas is kind of their version of Anthropic's Artifacts, which is a little window in which you can manipulate your results and be able to manipulate piece by piece what it gives you instead of having to kind of regenerate the whole thing. It's called Canvas because it'll let you go in and kind of like pick apart something and kind of use it almost like you would like as a painter. This is super useful for coders. People who write code have already talked about how it can allow them to kind of manipulate the code. But Kev, one of the things I want to talk about is how useful it is for writing, because I actually think for a writing standpoint, it can do a lot. And what it allows you to do, which I've always wanted to do with ChatGPT, is change just a couple lines of a thing, right? Like if you've come out and you say like, okay, I want to write whatever, a marketing document, or I'm a college student, I want to write an essay, and you have to write the essay, you can break it down now by paragraph and by section and tell it just change this part. It's almost like in painting for ChatGPT.
What a long walk to say for like, it's like a word processor. It's just, which is great,
yes, you're right.
Which is, that's true. Because the old way was generate your words. Now you have to copy and paste it, throw it into another app, try to tweak it there, or ask for a small edit from the AI and then wait as it regenerates everything. Or yes, you're right. It loses focus on exactly where it's supposed to go. Now you're writing more inline like it is a word processor. You can select the area that you want it to pay attention to. You can make the edits yourself or ask for specific edits. And it just does it all inline elegantly.
And I hope that this is the future of AI models in general, which we're going to talk about Meta's MovieGen in a bit, which is allowing people to do manipulation of specific things within videos. This is basically allowing you to manipulate specific things within the results of an LLM. So that, plus they just unveiled a new ChatGPT homepage. If you saw that, Kev, there's like the question on the ChatGPT homepage now is, what can I help with? And it looks suspiciously like a Google box ultimately. And I think that's where it's going.
You mentioned Meta's MovieGen. We have to talk about it because even though we can't get our hands on it right now, the videos, which may be cherry-picked, I must submit, the videos look really impressive, and Meta is taking direct shots at other generative AI providers. So MovieGen is their state-of-the-art video generation model. And if you look at the little sample video, which will be on the screen if you're in the audio version, be in the show notes, they've got a skateboarder sauntering along, and the prompt is add a red cape to the man. And they show a tool that you and I both like, Runway Gen 3, and the person's hoodie kind of turns into a weird bright red neon safety vest. It does not add a red cape to the man. But in the box right next to it, Gavin, the MovieGen sample, this skateboarder has a Marvel-esque red cape and The physics of the cape move along with the hand and the wind as the skateboarder moves along, and that is worth melting our ice caps for, Gavin.
What I'm just excited about is that there's another giant company working on video generation, because I love Runway, Gen 3, I love Luma, all these smaller companies are great, but they also have they're startups, right? So they have a little bit of limited runway. You can tell that Meta has put a lot of money and research into this tool based on what's coming out. Now, to Kevin's point, like Sora, this is not available in any way for us to try or anybody out there to try. This is just videos and a 96-page technical paper, which is all very cool. And there are some really interesting things it can do. One of the things I think, Kevin, that kind of speaks to Zuckerberg's, what I believe, kind of overall vision of what he wants to do with AI is it's going to allow you to take a single image of you and put it into a video, into a text-to-video prompt. And that's a very cool thing. We've seen some open source tools doing that. And you can already see the Instagram post of upload your picture and put yourself into the Roman Empire. I think one of the reasons why they're a little hesitant, because obviously the deepfake potential for something like this could be significant. Right. And that's also what Sora has said. They're very worried about. I don't think the safety term in this instance is less about the AI is going to kill us all and more about what humans are going to do with this to other humans. So Meta is being very careful about that, but it does feel like we have now achieved another step of AI video. I still think, speaking of OpenAI and shipping, I still think Sora, we're going to get something about Sora before the end of the year, I think. And I think that will be an interesting thing to see. Have they gotten Sora to be as good as these Chinese models like Kling or Minimax?
Or better, because the last time we really saw a large selection of Sora samplings, that was months ago, which in this space is decades ago. But very excited for the MovieGen stuff. It also does sound effects and soundtracks as well. You mentioned the personalized videos. The editing video with the text, though, I think is super impactful. And I want to point out that they have penguins walking around a snow-capped environment, potentially a glacier, and they add beach umbrellas and beach beds. Probably not...
They're doing it. They're taking that. This is all we're all subconsciously being told to forget about the environment.
No, this
Kevin.
is good. The penguins love it. Penguins love sunscreen. No, they really they look healthier when they're tan, to be quite honest. Anyway, very cool examples. Kudos to Meta for keeping people excited, but they're certainly not the only ones making strides in the AI video space. It seems like every week now there's new competitors and brand new tools being released.
Yeah, so Minimax, which is a Chinese AI video model, has now released image to video, and people in our own Discord are saying that this is the best on the market model. Supposedly, they're also going to release a paid plan starting tomorrow, I think. From what I understood from our Discord, it's going to be about $90 a month for unlimited video generation. Minimax, you get about 6 seconds, but if you look at some of the examples we'll show here, especially for image to video, there are some really remarkable results. And what we hear about Minimax, I haven't spent a lot of time with this, and I will say, I mentioned this to Kevin before we jumped on, it's I'm still not super comfortable giving my information up to these Chinese companies because I don't know yet what they're going to do with it. I guess I'm using TikTok, so I shouldn't be that worried about it. But the overall sense is you get better results back than a lot of the other programs, and you're not going to. The other thing that Kevin and I struggle with sometimes with Runway Gen 3, which we also love, and they've got an update we're going to jump into in a second here, is that you often get kind of censored on some of these models for things that don't even feel like they should be censored, or they won't even tell you they're censoring you. They'll just say you violated our policy for some reason, and it doesn't give you a reason. Minimax doesn't have that problem as much, and obviously the other thing that Minimax does that American companies won't do is it can generate IP. So there's a lot of generations you can do with famous characters or Super Mario or all the people that you might want to do stuff with.
On the topic of video model updates, Runway Gen 3 just dropped their first and last frame support. I promise this isn't as nerdy as it sounds. It is actually very, very cool. I will stand by that. You can feed to its video generator the first frame of a clip you want to generate and the last frame, which means if you're doing a title sequence for something and you want the words to pop in, not a problem. Do you need a shot before the car arrives and now the car is in frame? Great. You can give it the first and the last frame, and you can do some really, really powerful stuff with it. And I, of course, did very, very dumb stuff with it, Gavin. I got slapped on the wrist a bunch because I tried to use some borrowed material from the Terminator and from popular video games, but I got a few through. I managed to take Doom 2 and turn it into Duke Nukem just by giving it a first and last frame and letting it ride. I managed to get Mario to ride the Excite Bike, which
that
I
was
thought
a really
fun.
cool one. I thought that was really interesting. What's so cool about this is it does try to figure out what the connective tissue is in a way that before it would just go off in a weird direction. But I really love that Excite Bike one because it was a good example of like, oh, I see the Excite Bike in the first frame, which was clearly the Mario frame, but it put it in there trying to get to the last frame, right?
That's what I love, making it work, and I love knowing that there's a server somewhere spewing sparks and smoke, trying to figure out how to make Street Fighter 2 turn into Mortal Kombat. Or I took the original Halo game, a still from that, and a still from the just announced Halo game, and said, mash these two up, and it did a little cinematic fly through of the Halo world as you start back with the old Xbox One graphics and arrive to this Unreal Engine 5 version. Just a cool thing.
And one of the things I'm always shocked with Runway, especially their turbo mode, is just how fast you can get results out. And like one of the knocks against Sora early on, now granted that was 6 months ago, but we talked to people who were using it, was that it took a long time to generate the actual videos. And if Sora comes out and it's like it makes really incredible videos, but it takes whatever, I don't know, like 5 minutes to make a video, that's going to be a bummer because you're now used to this kind of like pushing through stuff. I think it's really cool that Runway's doing this. They keep pushing forward. And I think in part, it's like this kind of big company, small company mentality.
And to your point, as the end user, you want iterations fast. You want to be able to make content because you got to get it out there. You got to get 20 plus million views. You have to receive the death threats so you can pull the video offline so that you can repost it, so that you can spark a conversation about, is AI actually art or is it just theft?
That Kevin is introing our next story, which is a kind of a tale of what maybe not to do with AI video, but also just like a sense of where we are in the AI video conversation, especially with creatives. A Twitter user who goes by the name PJ Ace created a live action version of Princess Mononoke, the classic Miyazaki film that is very near and dear to everybody's hearts. It's an incredible movie.
It's all right.
You love it. You know you love it. I actually love Spirited Away more, but this is a number 2 of Miyazaki movies for me. He basically took this, shot for shot of the trailer, recreated it with an image to video model, and got insane amount of hate online about it. And I think that this is so big that he was like, did a whole like press tour around it. And like the BBC had him on, all this stuff. And I think the lesson here in part is there are certain things that are going to trigger people. And some people might say, look, that's okay. Like it's a good thing to try to trigger people. In fact, the artist Beeple, who you may know from doing NFTs and some AI art stuff, actually texted this guy, DM'd him, and he said, if you look at an AI as a way for humans to do less, you will be fearful. If you look at an AI as a way for humans to do more, you will be inspired, which is a very good message overall. I think that's an important thing to take away. I don't know, Kev, this thing though in my mind is like, it's a little bit of kind of knowing what you're opening up here, because Miyazaki himself has said he hates AI. He is not a fan of AI art. He does not like it. So if you're going to pick a Miyazaki film to remake with AI video, you have to expect that there is going to be some shade thrown your way, if not a lot of hate. I don't know, what is your take on this overall?
This isn't the first time we've heard this tale. I don't think it will be the last time. I think both sides are really gearing up and refining their talking points about how, listen, not all AI art is theft, and something we said when we started this thing ages ago, it seems. You want to advocate for artists. You want credit, you want compensation, you want ethically sourced models, and we can drive towards that. We shouldn't vilify people that are attempting to use these tools to express themselves. This can democratize creativity. So being upset that someone can make a $10,000 VFX shot in 1 second, that's the wrong take here. If you're upset because you believe the creator thinks AI is the least human thing on the planet and doesn't want it anywhere near their work, that's fine. But let the creator get upset. You don't have to make death threats on their behalf. So it's this delicate dance. I looked at it and thought, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's kind of what my reaction to it was. I wasn't like blown away by it, but I also wasn't like so mad about it. But I do think this like has taken all that bottled up rage that people have, that we've been talking about in the show for a while, and just kind of released it because they're like, how could they do this with Mononoke? How could they do this to Miyazaki? And ultimately, it's just a guy experimenting. It's like not that big of a deal.
Do you think people just get tired of screaming the same things, Gavin? Or do you think eventually someone who is a never AIer starts to integrate a little bit of AI into their workflow and suddenly it just becomes more okay?
I think so. I think this all kind of like dovetails with what's happening in Hollywood right now. And I think a lot of people are very mad about that, which, you know, TLDR, Hollywood is kind of dying right now. There's just a lot less jobs, a lot less interesting work is being made. Yes, indie movies are being made that are still interesting, but they're not putting money behind interesting movies and unique movies. It's a lot of IP schlock. So I think a lot of this is a reflection of that, as a reflection of this like dying, the quote unquote dying of creativity that I think people see at large in the world, or at least observe. I personally think like this probably wasn't the best video to make if you're going to remake a film. In fact, one of the things Kevin made me think of, I want to remake the trailer for like Short Circuit or some dumb film from when we were kids, and like have it just be like, not as a parody of this, but I do think it's fun to try to remake a trailer in some form with this sort of thing. Although Short Circuit's a live action movie, so I should really pick what's a good animated movie to remake that no one will be mad about? Like, what's a really bad animated movie or an animated...
Akira.
Great idea. I'm going to work on that tonight. I'm going to make Akira, and I'm going to put it out, and I'm going to make sure it stars Leonardo DiCaprio, which at one point he was going to be the person starring in it. Anyway, I think this is one of those things we're going to see a lot more of as we go forward. I also think it is time for us to move on to celebrating some of the people that are doing these things that we see in everyday life with AI, and it is time for AI. See what you did there.
Sometimes you're scrolling without a care, then suddenly you stop and shout, AI, see what you did there. AI, see what you did there.
This is a perfect example coming off of what we just talked about, where somebody remade somebody else's IP with AI tools and got a lot of crap for it. I just want to tell the world at large that I think that NeuraViz, who we've talked about on the show before, he had the Cop series. He is one of the greatest original AI video creators that we have right now. He has a new video that just came out, an 8-minute video that is entirely AI generated called The Church of Z. And it has his kind of like regular funny background, but it also has this kind of weird, mysterious, like kind of cult happening in it.
Good evening and welcome to Focus Point. The world continues to watch with bated breath as the megastructure being built on behalf of the mysterious supreme intelligence known as Zorgop is well underway. No military force has been able to penetrate the structure's containment field, and no government has been able to establish a line of communication with the entity or its followers. But for the first time since construction broke ground, Focus Point has been granted exclusive access to the site of the structure and to those that are building it. Tonight we take you inside the Church of Z.
And it's just a great example of what you can do when you're writing it yourself, but you're using these tools to put them together. And the tools he uses are things like Hydra, which we talk about all the time, Runway Gen 3, Midjourney, and other things for the images to start with. It just shows you the size and scope of what you can make with one person with these.
And that's the thing. Like, that's the impact of the post on X. One person, 1 week, one incredibly dumb video. It's 8 minutes long. I watched the whole thing. I was thoroughly entertained throughout. And NeuraViz is doing very smart things, like theming the time period even with which this video might have been created, that plays to the strengths of some of the limitations of video generation. Some of the blurry shots are excused. Some of the more robotic sounding voices are okay because they are stodgy anchors from a different time, and everything feels elegantly packaged. And to see that as one person, 1 week is just, it's super impressive. I could see how people could see that and maybe be fearful or upset about the power of these tools. But I can't look at it and get anything but inspired by what we'll be able to make in the near future. I think that's the way to look at it.
Go follow him. He deserves much more of a follow than even we do. And we definitely deserve a follow. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about here is an AI job application bot. So Kevin, you've heard forever about you've heard forever about how AI companies are using AI to sift through your jobs and they may never see your application. Well, guess what? Employees or potential employees are fighting back. That's right. There is now an AI bot It's actually a thing on GitHub, and you give your resume to it, and it automatically uploads your resume and sends it to all these different things that you can be good for. What's fascinating is that the person that started this said they got 50 interviews out of it. And I think, Kev, one of the things that anybody knows who's ever tried to apply for a job online nowadays through LinkedIn or something else is that you throw your resume in there and you kind of like cross your fingers, right? Because unless you have a direct in with the person you're putting your job to, most likely you're just going to get passed on because they're looking for a specific keyword or they're looking for something, and you may or may never hear back.
When you say they're looking, you mean probably an automated piece of software is scanning the resume and looking for that keyword. And this thing does a lot. I mean, I haven't used it to see if it's delivering on the promise, but it's getting a lot of attention. It not only does it just like look for the jobs that make sense for you. It says intelligent job search automation, like going through various criteria to find those jobs. It then modifies your resume to personalize it and make it more impactful to the company that you're applying to. Even looking at that company and like adjusting the words that you use so that you fit the company culture more. Like that is crazy that the AI tool is being used to target another AI tool just to get a human to pay attention to another human. We're excitedly talking about this tool because it's fun, it's interesting, and someone released it. But this is the dystopian future that people were screaming about not too long ago. And we're here. And in a way, we're kind of celebrating because, we're here. AI recruitment and hiring efforts led to the development of an AI tool to combat them. And eventually, some humans are going to talk and they're going to flush it out.
It's a little look at the world of AI agents that's coming, right? This idea that you're going to have all these AIs doing everything all over the place. And like, you're just going to have these AIs talking to each other. And then eventually you'll get something out of it. Like, I'm really curious to see how that's all going to play out.
Will your AI agent be able to like bribe another AI agent? Like grease the digital wheels to like get you a better deal on the car or to get your resume to the top of the stack?
That's interesting. God, that's a really fascinating thing to think about how the AI agents will get priority over others. Next up, really quickly, there's a new tool called Thoreo, which is a very simple tool. I don't know the background of this company, but it's a very simple thing. It looks like one person made it. It's one of these kind of websites that probably somebody coded with AI. But what it basically allows you to do is drop in a YouTube link or a PDF into a UX that then can ask you questions about it. Now, we've seen this before, but specifically this is being used to study. Like, it's actually designed for students. So you could drop in a lecture from your professor, drop it in, and not only will it kind of create a custom GPT, but it will allow you to create a quiz based on that thing. It'll allow you to create note cards. And it's just a very useful thing that an AI could do, which is like create a study buddy. And I think it's small, but it's to me something that's kind of like speaks at a larger AI education future.
Yeah, you dropped in one of our podcast episodes and it did a great job of summarizing it. It broke down key concepts. You can see the full transcript, but to your point, you can click on quiz and it's pulling out facts from the show for you to go ahead and guess and see if you can get it correctly. And I absolutely failed our own quiz on our own show.
You don't watch the shows, do you? You never watch them. You just hear, you're like flittering away about an hour later and you just never think about it. So is that the answer?
I watched the Ovans podcast. I like Tim Dillon. I want to shout out a video too, just because it's a kind of like another one of these, but it's very, very well done. Ranisto, and I apologize if I am completely butchering your name. They posted a short called Gorilla Story, and it says it's a gorilla trying to make it. It's 5 minutes long. It was done with Flux, Runway, 11 Labs, Suno, Stable Audio, the stuff that we discuss here all the time. But it is a gorilla moving about, just trying to make their way.
He's a chef. He's a gorilla chef.
But then it cuts to like gorilla on Subway and gorilla at home watching Netflix and of course eating spaghetti. You have to have a spaghetti scene. And then eventually, like all of us, just shouting from a balcony, screaming out into the ether. I thought it was really well done. Another example of a single filmmaker doing some visually beautiful stuff and using AI to tell stories.
Honestly, that's something I would encourage everybody else to try this weekend, is just go out and like make a 1 minute video, because it's a good time to dip back into the tools because they've really gotten so much more powerful. Yeah. And Minimax, that model we talked about earlier, is free right now. You can use it for free. So it's a good opportunity to jump in and try some things. Kev, this week, I spent some time making minions, right? Because I have loved the minions forever. Banana. I spent some time...
Did your AI resume submitter not come back with any good results this week? Do you not?
I'm just sitting here at home, Kevin, doing the stuff I love to do, and that's making minions. So GLIF, which we've talked about a ton on this show, has done a great job lately of integrating Flux Loras. And I know that's like 3 words, GLIF, Flux, Lora, which may confuse people.
Lora. Go ahead.
Yeah. GLIF is a company that allows people to build back-end workflows that then make it easy for anybody else to come in and use them. That's GLIF. Flux is one of the top-of-class open-source image models that's out there from Black Forest Labs. And Lora is a specific training on those Flux models that lets you get something specific out of it. So what GLIF has done is it has allowed people to basically host their Loras on GLIF. And a Lora, in this instance, is specifically something that you've trained to get a result out of Flux, out of the image model. And somebody trained one that allows you to make anything into a minion. They're using what's called a character merge tool. And basically, it's not just a minion. You can merge 2 characters of any sort, but I used it to merge minions into all sorts of things. I used it to merge minions into the Avengers, which was pretty good. I got a pretty good Captain America. I got a pretty good Thor and a couple other things. I used it to merge Guy Fieri, which was really solid and good. Yeah. I really thought. I then used it to merge me, which it really took, and I didn't know who I was, I don't think, because it really made an unusual looking version of me. Yeah. But most importantly, I got it to merge a Minion and Kevin Pereira, and it is a fantastic looking Minion. It is basically a Minion with spiky hair holding an Xbox controller. And I mean, this is just like, this goes back to that sense of like, yes, people are going to win Nobel Prizes for things, but really what I want to do is make minions of my friends.
Is that what you mean? Yes, people are going to win Nobel Prizes.
Yeah, exactly.
But nobody you're listening to right now.
Somebody else made an Animorphs, Lora. So if you were, I'm a little old for this, but my kid brother read the Animorphs, so I actually read through a bunch of them, and these are famous books that had a very famous cover where you would see like a kid morphing into an animal. That was like the whole Animorphs world. So you can create an Animorph out of whatever you want. And of course, because I was so much time spending with the minions, I created a minion morphing into Donald Trump. And this to me is like maybe peak AI art is a minion directly morphing into Donald Trump. You could do that with GLIF, and there are Flux Loras right now, which is just a fantastic thing.
If you want to play around with creating your own Lora, there are plenty of websites where you can put $2 in, give it 10 photos of yourself, and it will come back. There is an app that is free called Flux Gym, which will let you train a Lora locally on your own computer, assuming you have an NVIDIA graphics card. And Flux is so powerful. It is free if you want to run it locally. There's a myriad ways to do that. We'll probably end up doing a more in-depth tutorial on it later, because I that's what I did this whole week, was playing around with my own Lora that I trained and throwing me into a bunch of situations and grabbing extra Loras and bolting them together. At some point, maybe the Adobes of the world will productize all of this and make it one click for everybody to do, but you can get some really, really impactful results if you just take a couple hours. Do it throughout the week. Start using these tools. Make that short film that Gavin challenged you to do, and try to train your own Lora on yourself, because if you need new headshots, or you just need to send a silly photo of you as a Toy Story figurine to a friend, you can do that with the power of these Loras.
No, Kevin, this is all about the minions. It's not about AI art. It's about the minions.
Okay, that's
Go
fair.
out there and make minions. Make minions.